should have died yesterday, but I went to see them and she was kind of, she was still okay. She has like tumor and she has internal bleeding, so it's not really known. Sorry? Yeah. Priya.
Priya.
Yeah, Priya.
So it looks like the bird's still with us as well.
The bird is here?
Just come back.
All right. Wow.
Yeah, I can saw it. How is Mr. Special?
And the date is.
The date is 8th. So she's so they said that the vet said that she might die yesterday, but she's still alive. Maybe she could go on like that for a few days, who knows?
Okay, well, the dog is on this. And she'll just go on the other list when she dies.
Sorry?
She'll go on the other list when she dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Should we do hello everyone, hello people at home? So we will start with a praise to Manjushri. Thought of changing it to a praise to Dechin. Yeah. To you, a praise to you.
Yeah.
Who?
Page 12.
Obeisance to my Guru and Protector Manjushri, who holds as his heart the scriptural text embodied of these things, all things as they are, whose understanding shines forth as the sun, unclouded by defilements or traces of ignorance, who teaches in 60 ways with the patient love of Father for his only Son, all creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. You, who strongly found the proclamation of the Dhamma, arises from the stupor of our delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma, whose powerful sword of wisdom hews our sufferings wherever its routes appear, clearing away the darkness of all ignorance. I entreat you, Manjushri, whose princely body is adorned with the 112 marks of a Buddha, who has completed the 10 stages, achieving the highest perfection of Bodhisattva, who has been pure from the beginning. O Manjushri, O loving one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness and close in my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom so I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. And then, by the way, I think that the power came back at 3 a.m.
I think it was 3 a.m. because I got up at 2, it wasn't on.
Yeah.
I got up at 4 and it wasn't on.
Yeah, so it came back at 3 a.m. and my aircon kicked in immediately because it was not switched off. And let me tell you, there's hardly anything that is better than waking up in the morning with some cool air of air-conditioned room. Yeah, definitely. That's for you, Graham.
What about
all right?
We had beautiful pouring, stormy rain, beautiful rain pattering on the roof. That was much better than air conditioning, and the fans whirring over.
What fans were
all right. Yeah, Graham is one of those weird people that don't like air conditioners.
I'm just for the environment.
Good on you, Graham.
All right. So, chapter number 7, we're looking at Joseph. In the previous week, we looked at antidotes to the first type of laziness, which is laziness of indolence, right? So we have laziness of being idle, indolence, laziness of being attracted to ignoble activities, and laziness of discouragement. So do you remember what were the antidotes to laziness of indolence? Death, meditation on death and impermanence. Meditation on perfect human rebirth. Yeah, and the suffering of the lower realms, to get out, kind of just get going and doing something now. Kind of. So not thinking that I still have time. Lama Tsongkhapa says that in his presentation that in terms of your practice of the Dhamma, there are two things that diminish it. First of all, not taking it up from the get-go because of procrastination, thinking that I still have time, right? So this type of meditations are good for thinking that I still have time, I could do it later on. And then it says that even though you know that you can practice the Dhamma, or that you are able to do that, you become attracted to ignoble activities. So, just kind of being attracted to all sorts of entertainment and so forth. Or you look down on yourself. You know that you can practice, but you still kind of, you're not sure about your abilities, and you kind of think that I'm not sure that actually I can do it. So it holds you back. So we spoke of the first type of laziness in the previous week, I believe. So today we're going to look at laziness of being attracted to ignoble activities, the second type of laziness. We're going to look at what it is in brief, and also what the antidotes are for this laziness. And then we're going to begin with the third type of laziness, which is laziness of discouragement. And at the end, we'll also try to cover one or two or even more of the secondary offenses. So we have a lot on the plate. So if you were to describe laziness of being attracted to ignoble activities, how would you do it?
Well, we had a discussion group about the non-virtues of television, distraction to television.
So distraction to televisions. Yeah. One. Oh my God, you are attacking me today. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Just joking. Getting caught up in worldly affairs. Having kind of heaps of coffee with friends at coffee shops. All right, so
Gaming, any sort of internet activity.
Yeah, gaming, any sort of internet activity. Drinking, smoking, partying. I think that Geshe spoke about it in an interesting way today. Kind of, he said that when you look at, you have things that people do. It is kind of, I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said that you have laziness from a worldly perspective, and then laziness from a Dhamma perspective. So, in the world, for example, having a cup of coffee with your friends is not considered to be laziness. Or in the world, hanging out with, going to watch a show or watching the telly and so forth, it's not necessarily going to be considered to be laziness, just from the viewpoint of saying that not everyone is looking for a state of liberation. Most people don't. Since most people don't look for liberation, you can say that watching television, doing sports, having endless conversation with friends is not going to be considered to be that which holds you away from your spiritual practice. But if you do think that state of liberation exists, that you can attain the state of liberation, and you also have the intention to do that, then when you get sidetracked, that is considered to be laziness. So in this book, The Nectar of Manjushri's Speech, in page 240, when Khenpo Kumpal explains what is laziness of being attracted to noble activities, I will read that in a second. Let's just read through verse 15 that covers this section. So, having rejected the supreme joy of the sacred Dhamma, right? So this is for those who are Dhamma practitioners, not necessarily in the world, but for Dhamma practitioners. that is an infinite cause of joy, why do you enjoy being distracted by the causes of suffering, frivolous entertainment, and the like? So Khenpo Kumpen says, therefore, how is it possible for us to turn away from listening to the explanation of the three Pitaka, the three trainings, or the three scriptural collections that teach the three trainings? How is it possible for us to turn away from listening to them and from practicing the three trainings? How is it possible that we should take delight in what is contrary to the Dhamma and is productive of unbearable suffering both in this life and future lives? How is it possible for us to take pleasure in getting the better of enemies and in favoring friends? To take pleasure in trade and farming, in family and household, in being enslaved by religious wealth, horses and possessions. Are we enslaved by religious wealth, horses and possessions?
What's the second one? Horses.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, keep in mind that kind of Khenpo Kumpas probably wrote this text in the 18th or 19th century, right, in Tibet. So, yeah. But also, I think that when you read through a text like that, you also need to also consider the audience of these teachings and who he was talking to. So he was talking to, quite likely, to a community of monks and nuns. So I think that he was a student of Patrul Rinpoche, as far as I remember. There was a Dzogchen Nyingma master that lived in the 18th century, as far as I remember. So this institution was and still is a magnificent institution, right? So, so when he says that, for example, how is it possible for us to take pleasure in getting the better of enemies and favoring friends, to take pleasure in trade and farming, in family and household, in being enslaved to religious wealth, horses and possessions, and in providing for one's family? So I think that you have to put it in a certain perspective, because then when we apply to our situation, I mean, here, most of the people now in the room are monastics, but for the people at home, or for Jason, it's not necessarily that taking care of your family is considered to be negative. You have to contextualize it in light of who Khenpo Kumpas was talking to. Then, how can we indulge in all such distractions which run counter to the study and practice of the Dhamma and live time neither for leisure during the day nor sleep at night? How can we take pleasures in the reckless agitation of body, speech, and mind, in games and sports, in floods of unvirtuous talk motivated by desire and aversion, in pointless chit-chat that is neither positive nor negative, in jokes and loud, raucous hilarity, and in all kinds of mental distraction with our thoughts chasing pointlessly after the things of the past, present, and future? So although I think that what it says is you can contextualize it to a particular audience, still I think that what it's speaking of is not getting our priorities right. So if you're a family person, if you have work to do, so of course you do that. But then I think that when you try to reduce the laziness of being attracted to ignoble activities, I think that one of the things that you need to think of is we do enjoy some worldly pleasures, but when we get attached to that and seek more and more of those worldly pleasures, they take away from the time that we have to practice the Dhamma. So we can start to make a slight shift in our priorities. It's hard to make drastic shifts not only for lay people, I think that also when you become a monk or a nun, or even when you've been a monk or a nun for a long time, if you try to do radical changes, it's hard to keep up with them always. Some people manage to do it, but you need to be really disciplined. If you try to create small shifts in smaller and smaller increments, right? Work on changing your priorities all the time, then you can spend less time in pursuing what is not of great purpose, and spend some more time in pursuing the step for liberation. So, any questions with respect to what is considered to be ignoble activities or lesser activities? questions or comments?
I think we could easily talk about them because we're attracted to them. So we could
Yeah.
list a whole lot.
Yeah, we can talk about them because we are easily attracted to them. I mean, it's so kind of, sometimes when I do my work in front of my computer, it gets so sidetracked by checking every, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If I got emails, then I happen to be on YouTube, then I look at my messages, and it's so easy to get sidetracked. This is laziness of ignoble activities. So what are the antidotes to laziness of being attracted to ignoble activities? If you were to kind of work out antidotes in your meditation, how would you do that?
I guess it would be that the ignoble activity, that the pleasure that they bring is so short-lived, and that any Dhamma activity that we engage in is not just I mean, it might be difficult, it might be painful to engage in, but the results are far-reaching.
Yeah. So meditating on how, if you're getting kind of hooked on ignoble activities, then the pleasure that you experience is lesser, and you kind of miss out on the greater pleasure that you could secure within the practice of Dhamma.
Yeah. Well, it's so short-lived too. Any sort of ignoble activity that we engage in this lifetime is, the more we engage in it, it just becomes the source of suffering. Any happiness that we are experiencing will continue burning and just petering out and become dissatisfactory for us. While that isn't the case with noble activity.
Yeah.
And recognizing or meditating on the fact that we do have the ability to become Buddha.
Recognizing that we have the ability to become Buddha.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if there's an actual meditation how much of the music there, but it's about being able to, if we're in the effort to know that we can improve our mind.
Yeah. Yeah, the one quality of the mind is that it can be developed limitlessly. So what you said, I think, is I agree with you guys. Matt says, what I really like is a store or cafe with open doors and windows and aircon blasting. That certainly helps with the second type of laziness. But I like it also.
Disagree with that.
Anyway, Dhamma Tsongkhapa says in, I think that it's based on what, and Kerry says also the time of death is uncertain. Dhamma Tsongkhapa draws from, I think that he draws from Shantideva's teachings, which is only one verse with respect to laziness of being attracted to ignoble activities. And he says that, you see that the sublime teaching is the source of endless joy in this and future lives. And you lose its great purpose when you're distracted in idle chatter and amusement, which is the source of much pointless suffering later. I think that Dechen basically covered all those points in what she said. Yeah, kind of, you yeah.
Was it, I guess that any ignoble activity in this life really give suffering, the one will end up really suffering. Noble activity, will bring endless benefits and happiness.
And that's what we meant, that's the meditation,
Yeah, that's kind of, that if you practice, you can attain the supreme joy of liberation. If you don't practice, then you're kind of losing the great purpose of greater happiness. And you also chase after these types of pleasure of frivolous entertainment that will result in future suffering. I think that also the other points that you've mentioned are also things that you can use in order to remedy laziness of being attracted to ignoble activities. But at least in terms of what Shantideva points up in verse 15 in Lama Tsongkhapa's presentation, I think that these are the main points that you will take onto your meditation. So just going to put them in my tutorial notes as meditating on the Dhamma being the source of supreme happiness. And you can add to that probably as a sub point that, and you have the ability to do that. You have the ability to develop your mind limitlessly. And meditating on attraction to novel activities, causing you to lose the great purpose of great happiness, and also being the cause of much suffering in the future.
In this morning's meditation, that final laziness, sorry, am I jumping the gun here?
No?
Moving on to, am I segueing nicely into that final laziness of personal discouragement? Is that, because I think for us Westerners, it's a very, very real one for us all. I don't think I've heard anybody say, yeah, I can get there. I'm on the way for sure, I don't think so. We are always running ourselves down. And the way I presented it in my meditation is that every time we do that, we are increasing the veil. We are thickening the veil between ourselves and our Buddha nature. If we really believe that we all have Buddha nature, then there's no doubt, of course, I will one day reach enlightenment. Of course, I can definitely reach it. But the more we say, I'm a bloody loser, or, I'm bloody hopeless, etc., you're just increasing that veil.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Actually, clarify, as you said, that kind of one of the thoughts that came up in my mind was how when you do some form of sport, if you're a professional athlete, like for example a swimmer, many swimmers before the race, they visualize the race and also visualize winning. Whereas now they say that as soon as this doubt creeps in, kind of, would I be able to do it? Will I be able to swim well? Will I be able to win? When they start doubting themselves, this is where they fail in their races, which I think that is quite similar to what we speak about here. So we have to have the confidence that we have the ability to become Buddha.
The confidence in the ability and setting your goal as that rather than saying, I won't. And this says, I won't ever attain them, which is complicated at all. But even thinking, I won't attain it in this lifetime. Just give yourself the best shot,
Yeah.
That was your goal. You do set this goal because you Bodhisattva vow.
And Lama Tsongkhapa does a really nice work of phrasing it slightly differently to the outline that we have here. He says that when we look at the discouragement that we have, we can break it into 3 ways in which we become discouraged. So you can become discouraged about the goal, enlightenment, thinking that how can someone like me ever attain the state of enlightenment? Impossible. How can someone like me ever become a Buddha? I have so many faults. I'm so stupid. I'm not smart. I have so many afflictions. How can someone like me become Buddha? So that's discouragement about the goal. And then the second type of discouragement is about the hardships that you will have to endure in order to become Buddha. So you think that, I can become Buddha, but there's so many things that I have to do that are so hard. How hard it is to go into a long-term retreat. How hard it is to practice generosity and morality and patience, and so it's just too hard. Particularly when someone pushes your buttons. When we think of patience, right? So there's someone that is constantly creating some disturbance in your mind. You think that how can I ever become patient with that person? So you know that you can become Buddha, but you become discouraged about the means to become Buddha. So that's the second one. And then the third type of discouragement that Lama Tsongkhapa speaks of is discouragement about the situation and the duration that you will have to endure until you become Buddha. So you know that you can become Buddha, and you know that it's going to be difficult, but you're still distressed about having to stay within samsara for so many lifetimes in making kind of this graduated process. So that's laziness of staying in a certain or staying in a samsaric place, laziness of discouragement, being discouraged about remaining within samsara for a very long time. So Shantideva mentions that in his section. So basically we cover from verse 16, which is laziness of discouragement, all the way to verse 30 as far as I remember. So it is divided into different points, but altogether Lama Tsongkhapa says, let's look it up. We have laziness about, we've been discouraged about the goal, the state of enlightenment, or we're being discouraged about the hard work that we need to put into attaining the state of enlightenment, or we are being discouraged about how long will it take us to do that, and still having to remain within samsara until that is attained. So I think that probably in different times, different occasions, different situations, we had all of those different discouragements manifest in our life, don't we? I guess that if we think of, for example, the point that Dechen made, setting ourselves up for failure, kind of not trusting that we can become Buddhas. I mean, let alone becoming Buddhas, when you think of people that you look up to, like, for example, His Holiness the Dalai Lama or Lama Zopa Rinpoche and so forth, when you look at their attitude towards Dhamma, the attitude towards others, it seems to be like, I will never be able to be like that. We also tell ourselves something like that, right? They're such nice people, I can never be that nice to another person. So let's look at this section just in order to pin down. So we're looking at abandoning the laziness that is disheartened about virtue. So first off, in verse 16, let's look at verse 16. We have kind of just a general approach to this type of laziness. Without despondency, I should gather the masses of army and diligently take control of myself through equalizing self and others, exchanging self for others. You might remember that in the commentary, it says I should gather the masses of army. And then in the commentary, it says I should gather the 4 types of armies. Do you remember that? Let's look at that. So it says, kings conquer their enemies with 4 types of armies. It doesn't say what armies are we referring to.
I wonder if that was, the whole thing about armor, like, well, it's got to be armor, like enthusiasm.
So similarly, bodhisattvas initially lift up their minds and generate the armor-like enthusiasm, free from despondency that intends to train the path. Then they gather the enthusiasm of application that builds up the army of the 2 accumulations and preparation. At the time of the main part, they sincerely practice introspection and mindfulness, and thus gain control over themselves as the body and mind become serviceable. Having done that, one should equalize and exchange self and others as explained below. So it provides a certain outline to the practice, step by step. But then I looked at, since I was also not totally clear what those 4 armies are, I tried to look at other commentaries as well. In Khenpo Kumpas, he also mentioned armies, but he doesn't really list them down. But what he says, again, in page 240, we should not allow ourselves to fall into a defeatist attitude. Instead, we should don the armor of diligence and we should summon all our strength, namely the four counteractive forces. So the four counteractive forces can also be taken to be the four powers that are conducive for joyous effort, which are going to be taught in the next section of chapter number 7. So looking at the outline, this is not the outline, sorry. That is also not the outline. So in the next section of the text, we're going to look at increasing the strength of joyous perseverance, the antidote. So increasing the strength of conditions. Then we're going to identify the four powers: the power of esteem, the power of stability, the power of joy, and the power of suspension. So it seems that in some commentaries, these four powers are considered to be those powers which counteract laziness. So I think one interpretation of those four armies would be to practice the four powers. Another interpretation, which I think that could also be possible because it's not very clear in the text, is to try to break down what Shantideva says here, saying that the four armies are, first of all, the armor-like enthusiasm, in which kind of you think that it doesn't matter how long will it take, how many difficulties I will endure, I will not shy away from practicing whatever it takes in order to become enlightened. That's like donning the armor, preventing yourself from being disheartened along the way. So that could be the first army. The second one is then the generate enthusiasm of application that builds up the army of the two accumulations as preparation. So you have the supporting forces of your purification of negativities and obscurations, and also the merit that you have accumulated before. Then the third troop or army would be a sincere practice of introspection and mindfulness that will help you to gain control over your body and mind so that they become serviceable. And then the fourth one would be equalizing, exchanging self with others. That could be one interpretation of these four armies. For me, the first explanation fits better. I don't have a great reason for saying that. It just feels like this explanation is neater. Interesting. What are the fetters of doubt? Where do you get the fetter of doubts, Matt? I'm wondering where is this reference coming from? Sorry?
Maybe from the despondency. It's the doubt that is doubting your ability.
Doubting your ability. Well, there is all right, Olaf's previous questions. The second fetter of doubt seems to be related to despondency appeal. All right, so Olaf, I turn the question to you. Then this term, fetters of doubt, could you contextualize it for us, please?
Yeah, look, there was a while ago when we were speaking about despondency still, and having doubting ourselves. So that made me think of the first three fetters before stream entry, and the second one being doubt. Yeah. The first one being, well, you know what they are, and so I was just commenting on that. If you overcome the doubt, your self-confidence will naturally increase quite significantly, I think.
Yeah. So it sheds some light about what are the fetters of doubt or what's the context of that. So you mentioned that it is relevant to stream enterers. So stream enterers, by the way, are those who enter the path of seeing. And when you look at this presentation of the 20 Sangha members that is taken from the Ornament of Clear Realization, it gives you an explanation of how certain types of practitioners abandon afflictive states of mind. Now, when you look at the 6 root afflictions, you break the 6 root afflictions into 5 views and 5 non-views. Of the 5 views and 5 non-views, there are things that are completely abandoned by the path of seeing, which means that once you abandon, once you're abandoned on the path of seeing, you don't have to deal with them anymore along the path of preparation. Sorry, the path of meditation. So doubt is one of them. Right? So on the path of seeing, as a stream enterer, but also bodhisattvas, they completely eliminate doubt together with the seeds. It is completely eliminated on the path of seeing. There are other things, like, for example, as far as I remember, you have holding certain views as extreme, viewing mode of conduct as supreme. Such things are completely abandoned by the path of seeing. Anyway, so Olaf is saying the second feather of doubt seems to be related to despondency. Yeah, doubting whether you have the ability to do it. So when we look at the outline of abandoning laziness that is disheartened about virtue, verse 16 speaks about discouragement in general, and then it starts to deal with the 3 ways of being discouraged. Discouraged about the goal, discouraged about the means that are required in order to do that, and being discouraged about how long will it take you to do it and how long will you be tormented by samsaric suffering. So it is not the way that Geta Dhamma Rinchen worded this one, but there's still parallel to that. So verses 17, 18, and 19 deal with how you rid yourself of discouragement about the goal, which means that when you think, how can someone like me attain the state of enlightenment? Shantideva says, well, actually mosquitoes, bees, and all of those other animals have the ability to do that. You as a human being, why wouldn't you be able to do that? You have a Buddha nature, in short, right? So that's ridding oneself of discouragement with respect to the goal. We're still going to look at those verses, but then after that it says, it is reasonable to bear the hardships that accompany working to attain enlightenment, for they are not even a fraction of those lower realm suffering. So here it deals with laziness of the means laziness of discouragement about the means that are required for attaining enlightenment. So you might think that this is too hard, I can't do that. So from verse 20 to, let's say, the fourth point, verse 27, you can even say, to verse 27, it is with this laziness of discouragement about the means for attaining enlightenment. And then after that, it deals with ridding yourself of the laziness that is discouraged about how long will it take you. So it says, therefore, there is no physical and mental discomfort for a person unknowledgeable in the status of accomplishing the path. There is no suffering from such hardships for one who is knowledgeable. That more, I think that could also be connected with the previous part. But then it says that for great being, there is no cause for despairing in the prospect of remaining in cyclic existence. So if you despair about how long will it take you, if you despair about remaining in samsara, this is how you deal with that. So today we've started with being discouraged about the goal. So verses 17, 18, and 19 deal with that section. So how the scriptures teach the way to put the antidote into practice. Let's look at verse 17. I should not be despondent by thinking, how can I ever attain enlightenment? Thus, the Tathagatas who speak what is true have uttered this truth. If they develop the strength of exertion, those who are flies, mosquitoes, bees, likewise worms, will win the unsurpassable enlightenment, which is hard to attain. Since I've been born human by race, so you can say that a lineage, and recognize what is beneficial and what is harmful, because we have a precious human rebirth. If I do not forsake the deeds of enlightenment, why will I not attain enlightenment?
I just don't get what the logic there at all. That 18, if they develop strength of exertion, like who's that? Who's that?
It says, even those who are flies, mosquitoes.
If they develop strength, so they are flies, mosquitoes, bees, and worms. Are they? That's what they mean.
If they is like whoever.
Whoever.
Yeah. Yeah. Any person or any living being who develops the strength of exertion, even if there are flies, mosquitoes, bees, and likewise worms, will win the unsurpassable enlightenment, which is hard to attain. I mean, it's kind of here, Shantideva kind of, yeah, it says that even they can do it.
Okay.
Because all sentient beings have Buddha nature.
Yeah, it's that. It seems to be something from you that it's because they have the emotion.
Yeah, we had quite a good discussion about that one too, that was exactly that, rather than on the basis of that.
Yeah.
It's focusing on the potential, but the conditions they have and the capacity they have in that body, as opposed to us who have all the conditions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I think that what Shantideva is saying here is, it was thought that all sentient beings have Buddha potential. I mean, not only ourselves as human beings, mosquitoes, flies, bees, and so forth, even they have Buddha nature. So even more so, we as human beings, we have Buddha nature. We have precious human rebirth. It doesn't say that directly, but it says that we know what is beneficial and what is harmful, which means that we have met the teachings. We understand the teachings, so the Buddha taught the teachings remain. There are beings that practice the teachings. There are those who take care of each other. We understand the teachings. We discern them. We know what is beneficial, what is not harmful. Why wouldn't we be able to attain the state of enlightenment? Yeah.
It's sort of into thinking of like question and leader.
Yeah.
Just sort of finding that mosquitoes and bees and all that stuff have Buddha nature. And then on top of that, we've got like, that's as you said, perfect conditions, like just walking the right sort of run, practice all those sort of things.
Yeah. Yeah. So if mosquitoes and so forth, flies have Buddha nature, then we're born as human beings. We recognize what is beneficial and what is harmful. We'll have a fresh human rebirth with freedoms and opportunities. If we do not forsake the practice, why wouldn't we be able to attain the state of enlightenment? So there are a few, I see that there is a bit of discussion here. Let's see if there's questions. So Graham says, don't we use faith to help us overcome doubts? We use faith in order to overcome doubts and also to overcome, I think, particularly here, laziness of discouragement about the goal. So faith in our Buddha nature, not just informed faith, and not just blind faith, but informed faith that understands what is a Buddha nature and how anger, attachment, and so forth are not ingrained, they're not inherent part of our mind, it can be separated.
This is going to say faith of conviction.
Yeah, faith of conviction. Faith is the bird that feels the light. and things when the dawn is still dark. Yeah. Yeah. There's a street at Tel Aviv called Rabindranath Tagore. Anyway, thanks, Grant. So, quick. So, just a quick summary of in my tutorial notes. According to Tsongkhapa, there are 3 forms of discouragement that need to be stopped. Stopping discouragement about the goal, meditating on the Buddha nature. Tomorrow we'll start looking at stopping discouragement about the means to achieve the goal. And to antidote that, we will meditate on how great samsaric suffering is getting us nowhere. But we'll look at that tomorrow. So we haven't covered that section yet. Second-year offenses. This is what I was planning to do now. So, if you have no questions about what we've covered today, we can move on to second-year offenses and the abstention of which. All right, second-year offenses. Let's rock and roll. So we've covered, the last one that we've covered was 41. Not acting generously towards those seeking material assistance. Now, the following, this one and the next one are similar. I mean, similar in the sense that they continue in the same spirit. So if out of laziness or bitterness, you do not give instructions to your followers or do not seek supplies for their welfare from wealthy lay people, in accordance with the Dhamma, it is a secondary offense of not looking after the welfare of your followers. Now, I think that here, again, it is phrased in a particular way. It's taking this secondary offense from a point of view of maybe you are being a guru or have some followers, or you're being a teacher. When I say guru, it's not just you have a teacher, you have students, or you have people that you take care of. If you do not look after the welfare of your followers, it is a secondary offense. Now, when you contextualize it in terms of the practice of bodhisattvas, so we've developed bodhicitta, have taken the bodhisattva vow, which means that we have committed ourselves to training the 6 perfections and the 4 ways of gathering disciples. These are the ways to care for other living beings, right? The 6 perfections and the 4 ways of gathering disciples. So the first way of gathering disciples is to take care of their needs. If someone needs financial assistance, you will give them, or you need to give them financial assistance in order then to provide them with what is conducive to a spiritual practice. So that's I think that this is an understanding that you can apply to this secondary offense in a more strict way of how you would do it as a bodhisattva that gathers disciple. But for most of us, it's not the case. No, it's not that we're at the moment gathering disciples. We might do it in the future, but again, when I say gather disciple, it's not that we want to gather people around us to be the leader, in a sense that it's not that we want them to appreciate us, to give us presents and so forth. It's more like the way to care for others, the best way to care for others is to teach them the Dhamma. So if you have those that you teach the Dhamma to, those that you have Dhamma discussions with. But also I think that if you extend to the people around you. So if you look at your Dhamma friends, if you look at your family, if you look at people that you know, if there are ways in which you can take care of some of their needs so that they have more time and ability, more space, physically and mentally, to develop the mind. And you don't do that because of laziness or bitterness. It doesn't work with your bodhisattva training. Sorry?
common thing is to study Dhamma.
Mm.
If you don't look after the students or don't give them the opportunity to study the Dhamma, that would probably be the opposite of, there'd be more inclined to believe that. Possibly.
Yeah, no, or
Well, that's true. I mean, it comes up, like, I was looking at that saying, you're appealing to wealthy lay people. So I was thinking, is this, in part in a monastic context where people have been described because it's been too high financially.
Mm.
That is a fact. Not because they wanted to describe for any other reason. It's financial. You could debate.
Yeah.
The lessons in that.
It's almost like that. Of course, they were pushing in the right income.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, when I certainly acknowledge that kind of that happens. I think that, when for ordained people in the West, if taking care of your day-to-day needs, you need to get by, you need to have enough money. It means that you have to go to work, or most of the time you need to go to work. It's hard, but also it's hard to keep the mind completely in the Dhamma, to be enthused, just to keep the momentum going. It's hard. But also I think that it's not only for ordained. I've seen, for example, with Geshe Tsultrim, I think that is a great example of taking care of others' physical or financial means. I've seen a few situations where he just kind of reached out for his pocket without even thinking about it, giving money or other things to people. Of course, monastics, but also mainly, I think, to lay people. So I think that those are good. And no, I'm not necessarily that he thinks that this is the way for me to amass disciples. I think that that's just one way of taking care of the necessities of others, right? So,
Doesn't that also do, it's like working on cause and effect in the sense that that sort of kind of action is really giving some money or something. It's then almost like this side, isn't it? Is providing the best ground for the students to get out of the state.
Yeah. I mean, and when you think about it, kind of not only is providing opportunity for people to stand in the community and so forth, but also if we treat ourselves in a similar way, when you can see that one of your Dhamma friends is in trouble, it doesn't necessarily have to be financially. It would be trouble in sense of they don't have the right set of teachings, or they don't have, you can point them to maybe something that will help them out. You can give them an advice. You can take care of that type of need if you have the ability to do that. And if you hold back because of laziness or bitterness, that's a secondary offense. So if we read through that again, it might imply that if you do not give instructions to your followers, or you do not seek supplies for the welfare from wealthy lay people, it seems that it's speaking about only a situation where you're a guru or a teacher, and therefore it wouldn't be applied to most of us. But actually, you can find ways in which it can still apply to you personally. Yeah. So any questions about this one? People at home, people here? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to give it to you kind of without bitterness. You were so nasty to me, or you didn't help me when I needed help, so why would I help you now? So that's 42. Let's look at 43. If out of bitterness or laziness, you do not act in a way harmonious with the intentions of others, it is a secondary offense of not acting in accord with the minds of others. This is an interesting one. So you do not act in a way harmonious with the intentions of others. So first of all, there are social standards in our society. In some sense, you can say that if you don't act in a way that accords with how people behave in society, you could be tending towards this secondary offense. In a sense that I think that I read through Thupten Chodron's commentary, and she speaks about having manners, right? Just behaving in a way that people see you as a good-mannered person. If you're being rude, or if you're being standoffish, if you're being negligent in your behavior, if you're not kind of behaving according to just basic social standards, you're not behaving in a way that accords with the intentions of others. So if you do it out of laziness because you couldn't care less, you think that you couldn't care less, or that you're above that, or that out of bitterness because you don't want to associate with those people, that's a secondary offense. I mean, it's interesting because then you have to add to that, which something that like, if it is with the aspirations or with the intentions of others, with the wishes of others, and it's still in accordance with the Dhamma. Right? So if, for example, if everyone's around you is going fishing, and you say that, no, I'm not going to go fishing because I don't like eating fish, then although you can say that it is not being harmonious with others, but still anyway, killing fish is not in agreement with the Dhamma. It's all right to not do it.
We're not doing it out of business for laziness.
Yeah.
No, we've got to, you're doing it.
Yeah. But also there are situations where we, in our society, we maintain social contacts with others. So for example, whenever I go and visit my family in Israel, I know that I have to spend time with them. And it's nice, but then I'm also expected to participate in some just hangouts, not only with my family, with friends, and some of them kind of I find a bit boring or sometimes a waste of time, but it's more like I have to do it because first of all, they want me to do it. It's not that it's in complete disagreement with the Dhamma. Otherwise, if I stay aloof all the time, it's probably that they find my presence to be unbearable. And also, we're not going to be able to relate to each other, right? So sometimes you have to just find ways in which you can still relate to others, act in a way that with the intentions of others. Someone is inviting you for lunch or for dinner, do it sometimes. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say that when I see that you have to, portion of the time, you have to do things that.
Say you didn't want to sing the national anthem because you didn't like the words. Would that be allowable?
Suppose that you wouldn't sing the national anthem because you don't like the words.
Yes, that would be okay. But if you screwed your face up and and shook your head the whole time, that wouldn't be okay. You could just quietly, yeah.
I think kind of. Sometimes it's kind of. I think that you have to look at the bigger picture. I think that your question is. What if, for example, you think that there is a certain social injustice? There's a whole social story at the backstory to that. So if you think that a certain injustice was done, this is a way of expressing
like not also wanting to celebrate Australia Day on the 26th of January each year. Things like that should be acceptable.
not laziness or bitterness.
Yeah.
Just quietly.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. I think that it's okay. I think that probably, as Chucky said, if it's not done out of laziness or bitterness, because sometimes, particularly when we're facing social injustice, cultural injustice, discrimination, and so forth, it's hard for us not to engage with that without a sense of bitterness. We get affected either directly, or we get very passionate about it. We get angry. So I think that there are different ways of showing either disagreement with injustice, social injustice, discrimination, and so forth. All of them are good. I think that the most important thing is try to do it in a positive way, without anger, without that sense of bitterness. It's hard. I mean, it's hard for me when I think of injustice, cases of injustice that either affect me or that I'm being affected by, or that I'm part of it. It's hard to engage without that sense of anger. Easier said than done, but it's still possible to do it. All right, let's do it here for now. Sorry? There's a smell of smoke? All right. With their smoke, is fire. All right. Due to this virtue, I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigratory beings without exception to that state. May the precious Supreme Bodhisattva not yet born arise. May that reason not decline, but increase more and more. In this land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig cleansing Yatso, please remount his samsara ends. You uphold the Sibu's moral way, says the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and strengthening Marjana's victorious doctrine. O mercifully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, protector of myself and others, your disciples. Please leave moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gus.
Thank you. So Jen is saying that there's an annual Bunya festival on the 26th of January at UN Medic. Banya? Yeah. Do you say Bunya? Banya. So it's at the UN Medic Dam by the indigenous people of our sanctioned coast area. This is a great alternative to Australia Day celebrations. Yeah, actually, sounds good.
Sounds good to
Thanks,
me.
Jen. Sorry?
Again, closer to the time.
Yeah.
Send us the details. Please.
Yeah.